Red versus Blue. My first introduction to this Rooster Teeth created web series was in the 8th grade. I'd sit next to this dude in my chemistry class and he pretty much told me all about it. How it was a fun show to watch, but it got incredibly awesome around season 6, and that people made music videos on it, and I decided to give it a go. And let me tell you, I got hooked. I watched all the seasons, watched them again, made my mom watch it with me, and I kid you not, it's been deleted now, but my first video on my YouTube channel was a Red vs. Blue tribute video. And I'm not making that up. The music choice was Love Runs Out, I believe. Yeah. So trust me when I tell you, I love Red vs. Blue. And trust me when I tell you, I have a love-hate relationship with Red vs. Blue. Should the show have ended on season 10? Yes. Could it also have ended at season 13? Heck yes, it was maybe an even better finale than season 10. But the show kept going, and the writing kept getting weaker, at least to me, and last but not least, the animation got sloppier, and here's something really important to note. Once you start getting better and better at something, randomly getting weaker at it or getting sloppier is worse than staying at a consistent level. Red vs. Blue evolved from its earlier seasons from being a random, mostly ad-libbed show made by a few dudes to a full-scale production with excellent animation. To back down from that, when well-thought-out stories and animations were now the norm, is a big mistake. And the reason why this started getting weaker was because of the passing of Monty Oum. See, Monty Oum played a massive role in seasons 8 through 10, most notably animation-wise, but also story-wise, too.
Those of you who are looking forward to see the new season of Red vs. Blue, season 8 coming out, or if you saw it last week at Comic-Con, PAX East, there's some of my stuff. Think Haloid plus Red vs. Blue.
Considering how anime-esque everything felt and how Oum eventually went on to create RWBY, Oum was honestly an incredibly focused and passionate person. You can see this especially in the way he paid attention to the characters of the show and the direction of the action sequences. Animation can make or break a film or series. If a show looks pretty, that's great. But if the animation isn't there, then the life isn't there. See, even old animation that is roughly drawn has life because it moves, it breathes. And in animation, you have to exaggerate movements and emotions to further convey what every good animator must try to emulate: a real person. Even in anime, as exaggerated as it is, you feel a certain weight to what's happening thanks to the principles of animation. You feel as if even though the characters are bouncing around everywhere, everything has a weight and a realness to it. That's something Monty Oum understood. Again, the lead animator of Red vs. Blue for seasons 8, 9, and 10. On this episode of Why It Works, I want to talk about why the cinematography and choreography isn't what it used to be in the series Red vs. Blue. Side note, I don't watch RWBY, so I can't really comment about the animation side of that show here. Monty Oum had a deep understanding of fight sequences, and he had a deep understanding of the principles of animation. But let's not start with animation, let's talk about something Oum also oversaw. I want to showcase the difference in filmmaking, most importantly, shot composition, and let's compare something like Season 10 to Season 15. So here, we have a bunch of characters fighting, and here we also have a bunch of characters fighting. What do you notice that's different? Shot composition. One is shot kind of like an actual film, and the other is shot in ways that are essentially near impossible to do. Now you'd imagine that shooting realistically would be better, right? Wouldn't you prefer something that feels real? Not exactly. So this program is called Autodesk Maya, and it's the program that, Rooster Teeth uses for their animations. I know that Monty Oum used Poser a lot, but this is essentially the place where you can model, rig your characters, and also you can create the world. And lastly, you can create cameras. This shot is impossible in real life unless you have an incredibly complex rig, but it's made possible thanks to a Maya camera, as I like to call it. Also, filming realistically isn't the main problem. One of the main problems Red vs. Blue's fight direction has is that it isn't filmed in a dynamic way. See, in a fully CG or 2D world, using a Maya camera isn't necessarily a terrible thing. Here, the camera is allowed to zip past characters and do crazy maneuvers because subconsciously, you've accepted that this isn't reality, it's exaggerated reality. Red vs. Blue, animated by Monty Oum, is exaggerated reality. So going back to Season 15, it has better models, better lighting, maybe, but all of that can't make up for a lack of, no offense, vision. And that's not to say I know everything, because I don't, but I do know that not only is animating difficult, but planning an animation is just as difficult. And this lacks not only personality, but any type of tension due to the lack of speed and lack of choreography. Something later seasons try to do to make a fight look cool is to add slow-mo, and that's not how you make a fight cool. It makes something look flashy, maybe, but not necessarily cool. The slow motion in later seasons is used more so for the moment before impact, while previous seasons used slow motion on impact to further enforce the power the impact had. A subtle difference, and yet it makes a world of difference. Season 8's finale has one of the coolest final battle action set pieces for a web series ever, because it uses its location to its advantage to craft an action sequence. The later seasons of Red vs. Blue, after Season 10, do not really do this. Instead, its fight is in this place. So we just punched our way into another environment, but that's it. I mean, I guess if you count this, it's not much of a use of environment. So when filming an action sequence, you can always film a fight without cutting too much so that it's easy to understand, but sometimes cutting helps, as the barrage of cuts will make a fight look like it's going a lot faster. Now, I'm not saying to make something look like Taken 3, which is abysmal, I mean something like this. See, a lot of Monty Oum's fight scenes have the animation principle of anticipation. So here, when the black character, Tex, is going up against the white character, Meta, we have anticipation. The Meta is running at Tex, and Tex is readying up her punch. At the moment of impact, we get the principle of animation called timing and motion. Essentially, a fight can't simply be this. It's this. How does this work? It's because there's less frames in between the beginning of the punch and the end of the punch, while in the first one, there's more frames. More frames means slower movement, similar to overcranking and undercranking in old films. So when Tex punches the Meta here, the punch is so quick it barely registers. In doing so, you feel the speed of the punch. The camera also pulls back to showcase how intensely the Meta fell down onto the ground. Compare that to Season 15's Episode 13. Models look prettier, sure, but the fight absolutely lacks any type of intensity. And the camera isn't helping either. It actually pulls away for no reason, which actually kills the intimacy of a fight. Also, the person in the black armor is Tex here. The same Tex that did this. So, yeah, it's weird. And look, again, I'm sure that animators spent a lot of nights to finish this scene, but if the scene has no direction, then it fails. Yeah, does this remind you of anything? So the anticipation isn't really there, as well as the timing. There's also a lack of follow-through. It seems as if Tex is giving Carolina, the woman in blue armor, really light taps. Carolina should be getting pushed around heavily and flying around, and this does not happen. Let's see if we can fix this, just by removing a few frames. Compare that to this, a contained fight in Season 9. Pay close attention to the camera. You see how it zips around to all these crazy places in obviously impossible fashion? That shouldn't work, and it does. The reason being, it matches the speed and ferocity of the action put on display. It isn't trying to be realistic, it wants to be an exaggerated reality, and in animation, that's fine. Also, since it flows from punch to punch, there isn't a need to cut, which means that you don't get random jump cuts that confuse the viewer. Now, I want to talk about Season 17's final fight. I would compare it to the final fight in Season 10, but that's so insane and excellent that I feel bad comparing. Here we have Carolina versus Carolina, her present self-armor against her past armor, and don't ask me why this is happening, because I stopped watching the show when they decided to go all time-travel-y on me, so I'm calling this one present Carolina and this one past Carolina, to make things easier. The fight is a major improvement overall when compared to Season 15 and I guess 16, but the fight still has similar problems. The fight is a bit floaty, animation-wise, but that's not a big deal. The biggest problem is the camera does nothing for the fight here. You see how it just stays in place? It doesn't follow the action, it just so happens to stumble upon it. Now look at this segment of Season 10, Episode 9. It follows the action. It's incredibly important in animation to make things flow and connect and feel very frenetic when you have a fast-paced fight. Follow the action. The only moment in the fight when we get a sense of true impact is this scene. Carolina punches Carolina through a wall, but did you expect that to happen? I personally didn't. And why is because there was no exaggeration. In previous seasons, the principle of animation called exaggeration was there. The punches all felt normal and fast, but when something was very powerful, we would be shown very clearly that this was a powerful punch or a powerful kick. Meanwhile, this looks like any other punch, and it actually surprised me when I watched this for the first time. I thought she was just gonna hit her really hard. I had no idea this was gonna go all Injustice 2 on me. At this point, when past Carolina's uppercutted, they should have had present Carolina stand back and thrust herself towards the enemy, but it was just another punch. And then we get back to another slow fight, and for some reason there are zoom-ins on things that aren't necessary to zoom into. Meanwhile, we have a fight like Season 10's final fight. Here we see clear indicators of timing and motion, anticipation, follow-through and overlap, and most importantly, exaggeration. I'm still astounded and inspired by the work of Monty Oum, the brilliance and the simplicity, yet at the same time it's so intricate and complex. The fights are genuinely breathtaking at times, oozing life and intensity, and there's a magic that's gone from Red vs. Blue and Rooster Teeth as a whole because of Monty, but everything he was capable of. He most definitely learned through years of practice and devotion, and you can get to that level as well. The animators at Rooster Teeth most definitely can. It's not about whether they can put in the work, because they can. It's about paying attention to the principles of animation, and it's about how the work is presented that makes all the difference. I think Red vs. Blue Seasons 8 to 10 are some of the best the internet has to offer. Definitely check out the entire series if you're interested, but the animation doesn't really start until Season 8. And hey, maybe this is just me saying, please Rooster Teeth, please hire me as an animator in this weird way, but who knows what the future holds. Thank you all for watching. Thank you so much, Chads, for watching this video. If you are new to the channel, hi. You can subscribe and you can become part of the Chad Nation. I think that's what I'm going to call it. I'm not entirely sure, but we are a very nice nation, and we do our best to not be horrible people. I want to say thank you to my patrons. It means a lot to me, the support you give, and it does really help build the channel, so thank you so much for that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and please remember to come back to the table.